We're thrilled to have Dr. Elisa Song joining us for an in-depth discussion on thriving in an ultra-processed world. With so many unhealthy options around us, it's crucial to arm ourselves with knowledge and strategies to make the best choices for our families. Tune in as Dr. Song shares her expert tips on navigating this challenging landscape. But that's not all. In our toxin taming segment, we'll be revealing the hidden dangers of benzoyl peroxide, a common ingredient found in everyday products. Plus, we're busting another medical mystery about erythromycin. That might surprise you. Don't miss this enlightening episode packed with valuable insights for your health and wellness journey.
The Discovery Doc Podcast, where your journey to empowered, non-toxic living begins. Join me, Dr. CeCe, a doctor of nursing practice, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and mama of four, alongside
me, Annah Kate, your medical mystery overachiever. Together, we'll uncover the latest in functional medicine, debunk health myths, tame toxins, and provide practical tips for thriving in a modern world.
Get ready to take control of your health with expert insights, raw stories, and actionable wellness strategies designed to help you and your family lead vibrant, toxin-free lives.
Let's discover together. Welcome back to the Discovery Doc Podcast. This week, we continue our conversation with Dr. Elisa Song. It's time to hit a nerve, the vagus nerve.
Oh, that was a good intro. You guys, if you have not listened, go back and check out our first episode with Dr. Song. It is just really, really good information about integrative holistic pediatrics and just how we need to keep spreading the word of how beneficial it can be to every kiddo. So one of your key topics that you advocate for is the vagus nerve, which is super important and often very under-discussed, I feel like, as a topic. So talk to us about how optimizing a child's vagus nerve is essential in life in general, but also as relates to their gut microbiome.
Yeah. Well, I love talking about the vagus nerve. And I tell parents and practitioners that the two life skills that I feel like if we can set our kids up by the time they leave our home, right? Because that's gonna happen at some point, right?
Yes.
Too soon, but when we can set our kids up with the skills to read food labels like a gut hero detective, right, to protect their microbiome and regulate their nervous systems via their vagus nerve, they will be set up to handle just about anything that can come their way. And when we think about vagus nerve regulation, and how it relates to the microbiome, because we know that the microbiome really holds that key for lifelong resilient immune systems and brains and metabolic systems. So in the book, I talk about the 5 things for microbiome magic. And one of those things is how we breathe. Now, these 5 things are 5 things we do every single day, right? So I didn't want to give parents and kids just one more thing they have to do in their busy lives, right? These are 5 things we're already doing. We have to eat every day. We have to breathe every day or use our vagus nerve. We have to sleep, hydrate, and move every day. And we may not be doing them optimally, but if we really think about those 5 things and how we do those things in a way that can nourish our microbiome or not, then we can learn how to create microbiome magic with the simple shifts that we do. Now, breathe, or the vagus nerve, is so important that it's a whole chapter in my book. It's that important. Okay. Now, we can measure by proxy how our vagus nerve is functioning by something called heart rate variability, which for many listeners, if you have your Apple Watch or an Oura Ring, like I do right here, you can measure your heart rate variability as a proxy for vagus nerve functioning. What's fascinating is heart rate variability has been found to be one of the best predictors of current and future health. And this is for kids and for adults. Now, when we think about heart rate variability and the ways that we can optimize heart rate variability, there's another study in kids that found that optimizing heart rate variability in kids, aka optimizing their vagus nerve function, could improve their microbiome diversity and function independent of diet. Now, that's fascinating because for a lot of families who really want to embark on, this health journey, changing diets might be one of the most daunting things when it comes to your kids, right? And so if that's causing a lot of stress and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get them to, even have one bite of new vegetable on their plate. All right, we're going to get to that. We're always going to work on that. But if they're not yet there, then we can work on the vagus nerve, because that will move the dial on improving their microbiomes, which I love. Now, and when we think about the different ways that we can engage our vagus nerve, one of the most simple ways is learning how to breathe with our diaphragm, belly breathe and engage our vagus nerve. So I don't know if at this point it would be helpful to kind of discuss what the vagus nerve is and the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic.
I think a little bit. Yeah, I think that is not too common of knowledge in parents with young kids. Yeah,
and,
I think that's
and so a lot of people, and I know a lot of kids and teenagers in my practice, they've heard of fight or flight. I mean, that's kind of common lingo. You're in fight or flight, the proverbial saber-tooth tiger, coming at you, right? And you're getting ready to fight, run, or freeze, right? There's a fight, flight, or freeze response. Now, that is controlled by our autonomic nervous system arm called the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, that fight or flight, that cortisol stress response. Now, every day, unfortunately, we are living in a world where every day, moment to moment even, we feel like a saber-tooth tiger is after us, whether it's being late to work, or whether it's a deadline, or whether it's an exam, or whether it's friend drama, or whether it's a soccer tournament that we're stressed about, right? So every moment, our sympathetic nervous system gets plenty of exercise. It's up, up, up. Now, we're not meant to live with our sympathetic nervous system up like this all the time. It's meant to go up. That's a healthy, normal response to something that's about to happen. Right? We don't want to just go up to a saber-tooth tiger and say, "Hey, I'm feeling fine. How are you?" Or,
how are you doing?
So that's a normal response. But another normal response is our parasympathetic nervous system, our vagus nerve, which is responsible for rest, digest, and restore, should come up and say, "Hey, your test is done. Let's get back to baseline, and relax." And then, you saw mean text. All right. That's done now. Let's go back down. The problem is our parasympathetic vagus nerve doesn't get any practice for most of us. We're not actively engaging that response, and our nervous system is in this perpetual fight or flight. So if we can kick in our vagus nerve every day throughout the day, that's going to help us stay in that balance and help our microbiome and help our gut. Because psychological stress, especially when it's chronic and persistent, can trigger zonulin release, which is a marker of leaky gut, within 1 hour, right? And so we need this counterbalance, and that's the vagus nerve.
Yes.
I have a question.
Go for it.
There's a non-doctor in the room. So how do we, as kids and as adults, how do we stimulate that vagus nerve throughout the day to help us get back and kind of reset and adjust? Like, so I know that there's the diaphragmatic breathing. Is there anything else that we can do that's just like, hey, we're in a meeting, like things are stressful. What can we do like in the moment when that fight or flight shows up?
Yeah. So in the moment, I would say the most powerful tool is our breath. I mean, that is why the chapter is called Breathe, because it sounds so simple, but yet sometimes the most profound tools are the simplest, but they are things that we have to practice and do. It's really important. Now, our autonomic nervous system can also be called our automatic nervous system. Like when we see, that let's take friend drama and we see that mean text, we can't control and our heart rate beating faster and our pupils dilating, and we get the stress response. There's nothing we can do to control that. We can't tell our heart rate slow down. We can't tell our pupils, stop dilating, right? But we do have control over our breath. And what's fascinating is our breath is the one way that we can control this automatic response to tell our vagus nerve to kick in, slow down our heart rate, and get us out of fight or flight. But we have to learn how to do it in the right way, because when I sit and I show kids, teenagers, parents, belly breathing, a lot of times they're going, and they're trying to focus on like, okay, does my belly go out and my shoulders go up? And it takes practice. We have to keep our shoulders down, keep our chest, put our hand on our chest, a hand on our belly. And as we're breathing, we're kind of inhaling and filling the balloon in our belly without moving our shoulders, and exhaling fully and deflating the balloon in our belly, again, without moving our shoulders. It takes practice, but this is something that you can do in a meeting where your boss is yelling at you, right? Or when you're about to take a test and you're kind of hyperventilating because geometry is really hard, right? Right. And nobody has to know what you're doing. You're just slowing your breath down. You're stuck in traffic. You're going to be late. Sorry, we can't get the cars to move any faster. So why don't we learn how to engage our diaphragm and our vagus nerve? Now, that's one tool that I feel like we need to get down, right? Because then we can kick in our vagus nerve anytime. Other tools, and many of them are free, okay? Because the more we learn how to engage our vagus nerve, the more we can kick it in when we need to, when we have a stress response. But walking in nature, hugging and kissing and releasing that oxytocin, laughing, right? People have heard of gargling, ice water on the face, right? In that moment when you're panicked and you're like, oh my gosh, my palms are sweating and I have to give a presentation. If you just excuse yourself and turn on the cold faucet and splash yourself with cold water. I mean, in the ER, what do we do when you have a heart rhythm issue and you want to kick in your vagus nerve? Hand in the ice bucket, right? Or put your face in the ice bucket. I mean, it does, and you might not have an ice bucket, but that's some other things. But there are other tools like meditation, gratitude journaling. I love tapping. And if your audience hasn't heard of emotional freedom technique, where you're tapping these different acupressure points and you're repeating certain affirmations to let go of the stress and get to a new state, that works even if you don't believe it's going to work. And that's something kids and teens can really learn to love to do, because having a kid or a teen want to sit there in lotus position and meditate for 20 minutes might be a harder sell. But doing something active, and just kind of repeating some words and, they can do that. And a lot of kids really love that. So whatever tools work best for your family, it's just trying different tools. I have vagus nerve devices too, and we'll recommend. Now, not all of them have been authorized for use in kids, but I have used for my patients, selectively recommended some. So there are many on the market now that adults, can use, but again, I've used these for kids as well. So that's more if you need that passive, like instant, let's get you out of sympathetic.
And that I think is key, is understanding to the family what works best for their kid. For example, our 3-year-old, we're really working on her with some emotional kind of regulation. And what works really well for her is just to be held. And she's a sensory input type of kiddo. And she likes, if she's kind of at this dysregulated, heightened state, I just grab her. I ask her, can I give you a big bear hug? And she says, yes. And I just squeeze her and love on her and hold her. And I can physically feel her going like that. And with my 8-year-old, it's a little bit different, because age also appropriate matters. With my 8-year-old, she was having kind of a heightened emotional day and was having a hard time getting out of it the other day. And we went outside. I'm like, Ava, shoes off, feet on the ground. Let's just stand here, get some sun. And then she gave me a hug and we breathed together. And it's really that diaphragmatic breathing that you're talking about. And again, you can feel these kiddos like it melting away and them just feeling good and safe. And I just wish, like, that to me is a core, fundamental kind of educational tool that should be implemented from an early age, just teaching us how to actually breathe properly. I didn't learn until I was pregnant. And I went to this awesome pelvic floor PT for the first time, and you really do have to then relearn how you've been breathing your entire life to fill your belly, like you're saying, expand, and then compress appropriately. And I just wish that was more of a taught tool for these kiddos to have from an early age.
Yeah. And, a lot of kids, and I'm in California, we have many of the schools have a socio-emotional learning class, an SEL class, where they'll do yoga and they'll do some breathing exercises and meditation exercises. However, it's a class that many kids come in and I'm asking about their day and asking about, what classes they're taking. And that's a class where a lot of kids are kind of either the outright or the, kind of inside eye roll, right? And like, oh, that's a class I get to sleep in, right? So what I tell parents and kids, this idea of, feeling calm in your body and your brain and feeling good and relaxed, I love that for you. But to me, that's a beneficial side effect of doing vagus nerve work. And I call it vagus nerve work, right? I don't call it mindfulness or meditation. I say that's one way we can do our vagus nerve work. But the real reason to do your vagus nerve work is because, as we've mentioned, it optimizes your gut microbiome. It reduces chronic inflammation. It reduces our cortisol stress response. It regulates our hormones. It balances our blood sugar, right? I mean, so many ripple effects on virtually every single organ system in our body. It can help heal from chronic disease. Now, those are the reasons why I want you to do your vagus nerve work. And I want you to learn how to breathe. And if you feel really good and happy and relaxed in the process, that's great.
Yes, no, it's so true. And I have a large patient population of adults who struggle with chronic illness. And I tell every single one of my patients that we can eradicate things on labs. We can get them gone. We can get these labs negative. We can get inflammatory markers down. But you truly cannot, your body cannot heal if your central nervous system or the vagus nerve, as we've talked about, is not calm. If your cells, down to a cellular level, if your cells do not kind of quote unquote believe that you are capable of healing or ready to receive that healing, it doesn't matter what labs say. You can still have all the symptoms you started with, even though all your labs really, truly, in our functional medicine approach look great, not just functional look great.
Are optimal, right?
Are optimal. You can still have symptoms, and that stems from your body not being physically at a state where it's able to receive healing.
Yeah.
So if we can implement that from a young age, it could really prevent some of these things that we see later on. Now for you, a little bit deeper of a question, similar category, but expanding it a little bit. As parents and practitioners, you mentioned a lot about how our gut microbiome is really kind of the baseline to everything, to hormones, to just obviously our GI health, but our inflammatory markers and everything in between. So as parents and practitioners, we are hitting our head up against a wall, hopefully a wall that is shifting sometime soon, in a very, very ultra processed world. What are your greatest tips that we can do to help continue this movement forward for the sake of our kids' future and health?
This, we hopefully are seeing a shifting tide. We'll see. There's certainly more awareness about the harms of ultra-processed foods, not just in the pediatric populations, but even in older populations. We know that ultra-processed foods for children's brains can do quite a bit of harm. And same thing on the other side of life, with Alzheimer's and dementia, we know that ultra-processed foods can increase that risk. And ultra-processed foods, many of the ingredients found in ultra-processed foods can directly harm the gut microbiome, cause leaky gut, preferentially preserve the quote bad bacteria while killing off the beneficial flora, so causing gut dysbiosis, increase the risk for autoimmunity. Now, when we think about ultra-processed foods, I mean, the one thing I had said that we really, if we can teach our kids how to read food labels, be gut hero detectives, right? Label detectives, that is going to be such a key strength that they can bring forward with them. Because as your kids go off to college and they're buying packaged foods, whether it's at Safeway or maybe they have a Trader Joe's near them, they still need to know what ingredients to, assess and keep out of their pantries and read the food labels. And there's two areas that are so important. One area is going to be looking at the ingredient label. And, we want minimally processed foods. Whole foods, real food ingredients. And if there are, unusual sounding ingredients, look up what they are. Some of them may be, quote, okay. Like some of them might be cobalamin, which is B12. But then you think if it's a whole foods kind of minimally processed food package, why do you need to add back the vitamins, right? Shouldn't they be in the whole foods, right? But there are going to be, and in the book, I have a guide on how to read food labels like a gut hero. And there are a whole list of ingredients. You don't have to memorize these, but your brain will quickly get used to seeing, first of all, if I see anything artificial, that goes back. Right. If I see anything with a number like FD&C, Blue Lake 3 or Yellow 6 or whatever, that goes back. And then there is this category of emulsifiers that keep your food together and prevent it from becoming a clumpy, goopy mess. They can be found in the protein bars you're having because you want more protein. They can be found in sauces, like your favorite barbecue sauce or ketchup. They can be found in ice creams, right? And so and also liquid infant formula. The ready to feed infant formulas often have them, right? And so it's not going to say emulsifiers on the label, but it will say things like carrageenan or xanthan gum or mono and diglycerides. So being really savvy about that. Now, that's one piece of it. The second piece of it are these added sugars. I mean, sugars are everywhere. And there's not a kid in the world, I bet, who would say, oh, my mom wants me to eat all the sugar that I want to. No, I mean, kids know, a lot of kids know, oh, too much sugar isn't great for me, right? But what does that really mean? We have to give them that concrete, well, like how much sugar? Because it's not going to be realistic to say have zero added sugar in your diet. I mean, I tell kids, even 100 years ago, Americans were having on average maybe 2 teaspoons of added sugar in their diets, right? Fast forward though to the modern age, I mean, guess how many teaspoons of added sugar the average adult has in America in a day? In a day.
270
teaspoons?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Dude, overshot it. I was going to say
it's more than 2 and it's less than 270. So,
oh my gosh.
You know, I was going to go in the 20s, like 25 to 35, somewhere in there.
So the average American adult has maybe about 19 teaspoons. Teaspoons of added sugar, right? The average U.S. teenager has 34 teaspoons of added sugar.
See, okay, right? I was on par more in the teenager category.
Yeah, doesn't a can of Coke have like 16 teaspoons or
yeah,
something
well,
ridiculous?
And so the label isn't going to have it in teaspoons. So this is where you can create a little STEM project for them because the label is going to have grams of added sugar. Okay. And 1 teaspoon of added sugar has about 4.2 grams. Let's say 4. Kids should have no more than 25 grams of added sugar in a day. This is 2 to 18-year-olds. Under 2, they should have 0 grams of added sugar. Okay. So 2 to 18-year-olds, no more than 25 grams of added sugar, right? Now, that comes out to about 6 teaspoons. You get to 34 teaspoons of added sugar, right? 34 teaspoons of added sugar is about 143 grams of added sugar, right?
I mean, people are going to Starbucks and getting a Frappa Kappa.
Yeah, which has like, you know, some of them have like 55 grams of added sugar. But here's the thing. The sugar comes in sneaky ways. So of course you pick up a candy bar or you get the boba tea or the frappuccino. That has a lot of added sugar. What people aren't paying attention to, and I have parents, I have a daily added sugar inventory in the book that you can print out and do on any given day. Have your kids do it. You do it yourself. I have had functional medicine, you know, practitioners do the inventory and be like, oh my gosh, I wasn't paying attention to that food, or I didn't realize how much was actually sneaking in, because you may be buying, like I was, even for me as an integrated pediatrician, I was buying this multi-grain, high fiber, multi-seed, you know, organic sliced sandwich bread for my kids making their sandwich. Nobody has, you know, just 1 slice of bread on a sandwich, right? So I'd have, you know, 2 slices of bread. Well, guess what? Each slice had 1 teaspoon of sugar in it, right? So it sneaks in.
It does. And that's crucial. You know, something that 2 things in there that I think work well for our family, just having kids of younger ages. And this is something that we teach them, is to read food labels. They've grown up seeing me in the grocery store, turning everything around. So now they're starting to do that. And I have 2 that are at reading age and the other 2 are not. And something that we started with as they were just kind of learning to read was, honestly, if they couldn't pronounce it, if it was such a long word that they couldn't pronounce it, chances are it might not be something we'll want to consume, but that would be something later on to look up. If it's something you can't pronounce, can't say, you don't know what it is, then go ahead and look that up. And just kind of making it a fun, like, quiz game where I would say, hey, does anyone know? Like, I would pick a food in the grocery store and say, hey, can anyone tell me what the ingredients are like in this? Is there anything that we want to avoid, or are there good ingredients? And kind of just make it a game where it's a fun learning activity for them. And then they get excited. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't want high fructose corn syrup. And they might not know why, but it's starting the basis of getting them used to reading the labels, getting them used to hearing certain words, getting used to very age appropriate, things to avoid. And then also with my 8-year-old, what I've started to kind of teach her about is marketing. And is not falling for the front of the packaging where it does say, okay, hey, it's organic and it's pasture raised and it is gluten-free. But then you look at that and you're like, oh, wait, this is great for me. And you don't turn it around. You don't fall for that front of the packaging. They're trying to sell you something. You turn it around and you read every single ingredient in there. So I think that also is kind of pertinent in the discussion.
I mean, it's like how it's fat-free. This is a fat-free food. It's not a calorie-free food. It's fat-free food.
Well, and what's so important, I mean, a couple of things that you said, I mean, when we're trying to ingrain these habits, these lifestyle habits in your kids, it has to be fun. It has to be practical, first of all, doable, memorable, and fun. Right. And so, all the exercises in the book are meant for kids and teenagers to make it memorable and fun. And then, really, even at an early stage, at an age appropriate level, teaching them the why, because at a certain point, because it's healthy for you, is not going to cut it. And our kids are so savvy nowadays. I mean, these teenagers are going online and doing their research. First, you have to let them know, well, Dr. Google isn't necessarily the best source of all information. But they can learn that's great. Learn how to be savvy information gatherers, right? And then once they connect the dots with, okay, the foods I'm eating, are they helping or not helping me, be as fast as I want to be on the soccer field? Or for teenagers, is this helping or not helping my skin? Not get breakouts, right? And so connecting the dots between, the why, and the relevance for them. And, they may not in the moment necessarily make the choices that you would, but at least they're thinking about it. And the next time they may, and as they're young adults, that will stick with them.
And it does, I will say from experience with my own kids, it does really stick. Now, I was very blessed to be able to start this from, 6 months and on, from when they actually started consuming food. But it is something that sticks with them. And my son, my 6-year-old, gravitates a little bit more, or did gravitate a little bit more towards sneaking things sometimes. And that's when I made that shift that you just spoke about. I'm not telling this to my kids to hinder them or limit them. I'm telling it in a way that is empowering and educational. So then even with their supplements, I go through they know all this now, but I would be like, okay, who knows what omega-3s are good for? Who knows what this cod liver oil is good for? And they would say, me. And sometimes Jackson would say, it's good for my big toe. And I'm like, good try, buddy, And then Ava would be like, it's good for my brain. And I'm like, there you go. And then I would take that opportunity to say, it's also good for X, Y, and Z. But just to establish that and have them feel excited about it. And now they know, okay, why am I taking this awesome multi? Why am I taking this probiotic? Why am I taking this fish oil or anything else that I rotate through in terms of very gentle detox regimens for them. But the why is very, very important, because I do think that is what in the future will bring them back to making those choices, and not just because mommy said so.
Absolutely.
Or because it's healthy, or because, that's what we do. So I think that's a wonderful point. And discoverers, stay tuned as we talk more and dive more into a special topic of antibiotics, and lots of questions that you should ask your pediatrician or your whoever, your healthcare consultant in general, for you or your kiddo. Stay tuned with us for Dr. Song.
Yeah, and whether you are a kid, a teenager, a mom, an adult, a parent, a non-parent, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, make sure that you get Dr. Song's book, and go through the exercises. And if you would like to win a signed copy, make sure that you follow us on Instagram at the Discovery Doc, and we will make sure to give you all the details on how to enter to win. So, want to pick the brains of the Discovery Doc and our guests? Ask your questions by leaving us a voicemail or comment on our podcast page. Up next, we have our Toxin Tamer feature, which will shed light on common sources of toxins and where they lurk in our environment. All right, Dr. CeCe, where is our nemesis this week of benzoyl peroxide? Where can we find her?
Yes, benzoyl peroxide again. Go back to the first episode to find out what it is and why we chose it for this month to focus on. But benzoyl peroxide, it can be found in tons, and I mean tons, AK, of over-the-counter acne creams. I'm going to list off quite a bit right now, okay? So we have Clean and Clear, we have Neutrogena, Clearasil, La Roche-Posay, Acne-Free, Proactive, CeraVe. All of them have acne creams that have benzoyl peroxide in them. Broadening that to the reason why we're concerned about benzoyl peroxide is for the fact that it can convert into benzene when stored inappropriately. So if we broaden that market to what includes actual benzene, just for kind of a little side piece, we can find that from everything from cigarette smoke to gasoline to glues to adhesives to car exhaust, but most importantly and most concerningly, our personal care products and our cleaning supplies. So here is where also a laundry list, and this is not, I want to make sure this is not fear mongering. I don't want to name all these brands to induce fear, but I do want you to, if you recognize these brands, or if you're like, oh man, I have these in my home, let me like get rid of what I have or use what I have and then possibly swap it out for something different.
So, side note, if you wear like a turban or a headband or something when you wash your face and put on your skincare products, if you've ever had a dark colored one and you've bleached it, that's what this does. So this creates, over time in fabrics, it will actually bleach out your fabric. So if you drop it on your rug and you don't have a white rug, it can bleach out some things. So just fun FYI.
Fun side fact. Other specific examples of benzene specifically. So again, just what benzoyl peroxide can turn into. Benzoyl peroxide or actual toxin, again, face acne cream is the biggest one. But if we broaden that, we have sunscreens that include Coppertone, Neutrogena, Aveeno, Banana Boat, CVS, Sunbum, Raw Elements. We have deodorants like Secret and Old Spice, and Sure deodorant. We have dry shampoos are a big culprit. Dove, Nexus, Suave, Tresemme, Bedhead, Aussie. Herbal essences, Pantene, and hair food. I mean,
oh yeah, Herbal Essence is trying to make a big comeback. And that's dry shampoos.
Yes, dry shampoo.
Not in their other fragrance laden.
Right. Not that I don't have a problem with those too, but yeah. So we're talking about benzene, mostly dry shampoos. Foot sprays, so odor eaters is a big one, and Tinactin. If we go on to hand sanitizers, there are a lot of small brands that are sold on Amazon or at pharmacies and Target have benzene in it. There's one called Coco TKO that does, and Goose Creek. And then also, more acne creams to be aware of is the ones we mentioned previously. Proactive, yes, but then Target's Up and Up brand has it as well, and Clinique. And also, fun fact, unfortunately, sometimes benzene is also allowed to be utilized in extracting hops, which is then used in beer production. So that good old beer that we're drinking all the time can also actually contain benzene.
Can't get away from it.
No,
so
AK was Googling something. Yeah, I don't know what.
I just found out that I do a lot to take care of my skin because I don't like wearing a ton of makeup. Neither she and I are not makeup heavy by any means. So all of this is skincare, and I have
natural, baby. Yeah.
But I have on a mineral sunscreen.
What brand?
La Roche-Posay. And it has avobenzene 3%. So I will not be using that anymore.
Yeah.
And I like it because it's so light on my skin. It doesn't make me feel greasy. It gives me enough coverage. Dang it.
I'm sorry. I'll take the greasy, thick stuff over over.
Well, I mean,
These are chemicals.
yes, true. But this is my makeup. So out of all the makeup that I could choose,
Right, you're using it as like, okay, got it.
it's the lesser of all the evils. But
Yeah.
now I'll have to find a mineral sunscreen that does not have that in it, because we're not putting crap on our face, because we're not going to age. We're gonna slather it on and preserve it. I mean, I do so much work at night putting on all the
things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that much. It's like the youth serum that I make, and that works. That's why I have no wrinkles.
Oh, amazing.
I'll have to make
Should
you some.
bottle it and sell it.
I'll make you some.
Yeah, please do.
It's pretty
My
easy.
children
Actually,
are giving me wrinkles.
if you want to know my recipe, you have to join my insider list, and I'll send it to only the insiders.
Okay.
So
I will join that list.
You still have, I need to put you on the list. So go to thediscoverydoc.com, and right at the top, it says become an insider. The only way to get on that list is to ask, and that list closes December 31st. So the only way to get all of my juicy deals and secrets and everything is to be on that list.
Get her done.
But if you don't want to be on our insider list, join our regular mailing list at thediscoverydoc.com to stay ahead of the wellness curve. In this segment, we'll be tackling the world of medical myths and urban legends. Join us as we debunk some widespread misinformation, and set the record straight.
You guys, if you missed our last episode, you have to go back and listen all the way through for Annah Kate trying to do the outro.
Join my list. Dang it, just do it.
I'm sorry. We paused and I was trying not to laugh, and so now I'm getting my laughter out because
it's all good. Okay, so in medical myth busting, we bust medical myths and urban legends, and we totally tackled one last week with Casper and gum. So if you missed that one, go listen.
It's arguably been my favorite this far, because now we're about to get more serious of topics, and that one was like just core childhood memories that were debunked, unfortunately. No, fortunately for one, unfortunately for the other. But anyways,
you want me to say this word
this week? I can say this word.
I can say this word too.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I think
I say this word like twice a day, every day at least.
Erythromycin.
Yeah, great. Erythromycin. Some people put more emphasis on the Y.
On the wrong label.
So, is erythromycin, or how AK said it, erythromycin. See, we say it differently. I say erythromycin.
But we say all the right letters.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm pronouncing the letters this time.
You are.
Okay.
Good job.
Listen, guys. All right. Is erythromycin on the eyes of newborns necessary? Question mark. What are your thoughts?
I don't have.
Okay, you don't have thoughts.
Well, I have thoughts, but I don't have a baby, so I haven't had to tackle this. I do have friends that have had kids, and I have a sister-in-law and nephews, and another sister-in-law and nephews. So yeah, it's good.
So
it's
a great topic. I really, really like this because, I really like it because it applies to so many people and so many families. So first of all, erythromycin is an antibiotic that's used to prevent certain eye infections in newborn babies. The major risk factor of something called ophthalmia neonatorum, or eye infections within the first 28 days of life, is gonorrhea and chlamydia, i.e. sexually transmitted infections from the mom. Now, it used to be that gonorrhea in the United States was bigger of an issue, and now it's kind of flip-flopped where chlamydia is more of the leading cause of these eye infections within the first 28 days of life.
Is this more prevalent in vaginal births versus C-sections, or are C-sections rigid in this as well?
No matter what the birth process is, erythromycin is quote unquote the standard of care. So it is applied to all babies' eyeballs.
And it's that goopy stuff that if you've ever visited a newborn, like the day or the second day that they're born, they got this goopy stuff on their.
So it doesn't matter if it's vaginal or C-section.
Okay.
Which also makes no sense.
Good to know.
So that is how it came about, but it's so outdated. It's so stinking outdated. It stems from 1881.
Were they washing their hands back then?
No.
Okay.
1881. This is what we are in the United States, the quote unquote best country in the world with the best medical system, quote unquote, air quotes in there everywhere. This is what our literature is from. It's from the 1800s. Okay, I digress. Anyways, during childbirth in the 1880s, it was found that the eyes of infants were contaminated with bacteria that could lead to serious eye damage and even blindness. Okay, that is true. Initially, silver nitrate solution was dropped in the eyes, which started in 1881, but it produced a lot of pain and caused something called chemical conjunctivitis, or basically just a redness of the eyes because of the chemical that was put in the eyes.
Yeah.
So fast forward then to the 1940s, when antibiotics became more of a widespread solution and an effective therapy for ophthalmia neonatum. That is when the switch kind of happened. By the late 1950s, however, the United Kingdom had discontinued that routine prophylaxis without any reported cases of blindness from infection. So by the 1950s, already doctors and scientists were kind of like, why is this needed? Because we could be more preventative in testing mom for these things. So why do I need to give the routine antibiotic? The United States and Canada have continued to utilize this as, quote, the standard of care, just because it's become the standard of care. So it's what's taught, it's what's been, it's just what's done. And there's no questioning behind it. There's no revisiting the literature. There's no revisiting research, nothing. It's just become the standard of care. Meanwhile, we are one of only a few nations in the world who still do this. That is wild. There are many, many, many European countries that no longer require that universal prophylaxis because being truly preventative is just screening the mom and treating the mom who's at high risk for infection. So let me back this up, y'all. In every single standard pregnancy that has your standard prenatal care, right? Unfortunately, excluding women who don't have access to prenatal care, we are tested for all of these infections. We are tested for gonorrhea. We are tested for syphilis. We are tested for chlamydia. And if you're negative, then there is no possibility of transmitting these things to your newborn baby. So in my opinion, I am not going to then put an antibiotic on my baby's eyeballs if I know that I don't have these infections. Okay? If someone...
Band-Aid or source? Band-Aid or source? Let's go for source.
You can also repeat testing. So a lot of... It's kind of changed. And I love to see this. A lot of OBs will test early on in pregnancy, like one of the first blood draws that you do. And then again later in the third trimester, right before delivery, because obviously people have sex, things can change throughout pregnancy. And so I love that they retest it. But then they don't actually do anything with that information because it doesn't change the fact that the baby's still going to get erythromycin on the eyeballs. It would change if mom needs to be treated, right? So I get it that way. But it's not changing the baby. I have so many issues with this because, yes, it's not really about the potential danger from erythromycin on the eyes. You know, of course, there is like irritation and, you know, just whatever. There's little side effects that can happen. But it's more the fact that we are, as a country, are just gung-ho about something that is so outdated that even a small island in Greece does not do this anymore. So, story time. A friend of mine who I used to work with, she's from Greece, but she grew...
Hi.
Hi, we love you. She's from Greece, and she moved back with her husband and their baby. She who's now 3. I know. And she just had another baby. So she had one in the United States and one in Greece. Now, they live on a very remote island in Greece. I think she said there's like, I don't know, 3,000 people on the island. Like it's tiny. Yeah. I'm probably making that number up, but it's very small. There's like 2 hospitals. She had to travel to the mainland to like do anything. It is tiny. They do not use this. And her OB, when she asked her OB about it, her OB's response was, the United States still does this? That research is far outdated. We don't do this in the EU. What?
Mind blown.
So it's just, so again, it's not that erythromycin itself is bad, but it's the fact that we just subject a 2-second-old baby to unnecessary intervention because we would know when it is necessary. We have that capability. Now, if mom isn't tested, if she's high risk for STIs, if she knows that she has STIs, then you use your clinical judgment and apply that antibiotic.
It's great to have if needed, but it's not always needed.
Yes, exactly. So that is my 2 cents on that. I think, is it necessary the majority of the time? No. Should we be more preventative in the fact of actually testing mom, treating mom if needed, and then leaving the baby's microbiome alone, even if it's skin and the eyelids alone at the time of birth? Yes. Because it also, can you imagine like being born and then immediately putting goop on your eyes and then it's burning or irritated and then it's all fuzzy and blurry vision? Like, not that they can see far anyway, but it's just like unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Not cool.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
That's my 2 cents. I hope you enjoyed it.
So until next time,
Let's discover together.
be in the know. Join our insider list for exclusive access to bonuses and offers. Experience the privilege of me talking. Experience the privilege of our deepest savings and be the first to know about our latest promotions. This list closes December 31st.
We hope today's episode with Dr. Elisa Song has empowered you to thrive in an ultra-processed world. With her expert guidance, you're now equipped to make healthier choices for you and your loved ones amidst a sea of unhealthy options. Remember, it's all about being informed and making conscious decisions. Hold your horses. Before we ride off into the sunset, let's take a moment for a friendly disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for general, informational, and entertainment purposes only. While we strive to provide accurate and helpful information, we're not here to replace your trusty healthcare provider or doctor. Consider us your Discovery Doc trailblazers, sharing our knowledge and experiences as we journey forward towards wellness. However, remember to always consult with a qualified medical professional before taking any action based on the content of this episode. Like the Wild West adventure, this disclaimer may change occasionally, so be sure to check back for updates. Stay healthy, stay adventurous, and keep blazing trails with the Discovery Doc.